This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news, and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Georgia Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Burgamy.
Season's greetings and welcome to a very special edition of the Georgia Farm Monitor from Jekyll Island, Georgia. Yes, it is that time of year again, time when we recap all the latest happenings and updates from the Georgia Farm Bureau's annual meeting and convention right here on the island. So glad you decided to tune in. I'm Ray DeLessio.
And I'm Kenny Burgamy. This year, the 79th edition of the meeting. And one of the many guests of honor at this year's convention, American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall, returning to his roots to share some laughs and spend time with family and friends. Coming up, we'll sit down with Mr. Duvall and get his thoughts on his first year in Washington and what he sees for the future of ag with a new president about to take office. Also on the show, since 1983, UGA Extension at Georgia 4-H has been connecting children to Georgia's coastal environment. Well, now Camp Jekyll is new and improved. We'll show you the updates and hear from Governor Nathan Deal on what the improvements mean for the youth of Georgia.
And then later, her unique approach to teaching and the connection she has with her students has earned Marla Garnto the 2016 Georgia Ag in the Classroom Teacher of the Year. Coming up, the special project Marla and her students worked on to help Purdue farms improve efficiency. These stories and so much more starting right now on the Georgia Farm Monitor. Well, as mentioned, this year's convention marked the homecoming for American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall. The Greene County native returning to Jekyll, where he got to share a few laughs with friends and fellow Farm Bureau members. And as you can see, folks here at the convention, very excited to see him. Lots of hugs, lots of handshakes. President Duvall also doing the honors of saying the opening prayer at the memorial service. The chance to come home to Georgia, though, something Duvall says tugs at his heartstrings.
The fellowship around state conventions is no different in any part of the world, in any part of the country, than it is in Georgia. Everybody looks forward to seeing their Farm Bureau family, and it just meant so much to me to be able to come here and even stay such a brief time. So, all the people in Georgia, they're my family, and I won't ever forget them.
Now, coming up a bit later in the show, we will have much more of my interview with President Duvall, including his thoughts on President-elect Donald Trump and what he feels the new administration means for the future of agriculture.
As for Georgia Farm Bureau President Gerald Long, his message to members and county offices was this: we need to refocus on what we think is obvious, and everything we do should strengthen our collective voice to advocate for agriculture.
Every Georgia Farm Bureau employee and every county Farm Bureau employee must understand the mission. No matter what their job might be, their underlying purpose is to provide and advocate on behalf of farmers. Understanding the mission is important because Farm Bureau is local, and that local involvement is the key to meeting our challenges.
Every year, Georgia Farm Bureau recognizes outstanding young farmers for their work on the farm and in Farm Bureau activities. Once again, 3 finalists were chosen for the annual Young Farmer Achievement Award. And although all of them were worthy of the prize, only one was chosen. Damon Jones profiles Jonathan and Bridget Hitchcock of Washington County.
With more than 2,300 acres of row crops, 350 head of cattle, and even a wedding barn, you can say that Hitchcock Farms in Tennille is diversified. And that's where you'll find this year's Georgia Farm Bureau Young Farmer Achievement Award winners Jonathan and Bridget Hitchcock day in and day out as they help tend to this operation that they have a real passion for.
Just the everyday life of it is something different every day, and just taking dirt and planting a seed and watching it mature and just becoming a crop, and just raising our family in it, and just the everyday aspect of it. There's something different to do every day.
Just the overall experience of it, just putting the seed in the ground to the harvest, all year round. It's just really been a joy. I love cows. I love working with livestock, and so it's been an amazing experience for both of us the past couple of years.
And just as with any successful operation, it takes teamwork to succeed. And in Hitchcock's case, that team also happens to be their family. It's a setup they wouldn't have any other way.
I mean, I really enjoy it. I work alongside my wife, and she helps me every day with everything that we do, and I farm with my daddy and my brother, and we just pitch in together and get things done.
We love that most of all, I think. It really takes every single one of us to make it work. All of us are out here working every day, and you know, it's like any other business working with family. There's struggles from time to time, but we all in the end up coming together and making it happen.
And that family also includes their daughter, who they are thrilled to be able to raise on the farm. In fact, it already seems that she's taking a liking to the lifestyle.
Just the joys of seeing her out there, and she has my passion for the livestock for sure. She takes right to them. She is not scared of a big cow. She's, you know, just watching her learn and grow, and there's so many things that she can do that teenagers have never done or wouldn't even know where to start. So it's just fun watching her grow.
It's the kind of lessons they hope to pass along to other children around the area, as well as they host a number of events on their farm in order to spread the story of agriculture to the future generations.
There's just so much other stuff that's being taught that's so inaccurate or just not being taught at all. And if we don't teach them, who will, you know? So we host the Life on the Farm event here, one of the stops here, and we see over 300 kids in that event.
Kids that might eventually become interested in going into agriculture. It's at this age they begin to develop the most important thing needed to go down this path.
I mean, it's a passion. You have to start from the beginning, I guess. I mean, I started from a kid, and it's just hard to take somebody that's, you know, 20-something years old and tell them to get into farming, because if you don't have a passion for it, there's no way to do it. I mean, I've been doing it all my life, I guess. I've been riding a tractor since I could walk, and you know, driving a tractor at the age 5, 6, 7 years old, and I mean, it's just something that I've always done.
Reporting from Tennille, I'm Damon Jones for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
All right, Damon, thank you very much. Now, up next on the Monitor, the amazing story of how this Houston County school teacher and her students joined forces with Purdue Farms to help make the company more efficient.
Plus, the Monitor sits down with American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall, a conversation you need to hear. That is next when the Monitor continues from Jekyll Island.
Welcome back to the Monitor and to our coverage of the 79th Annual Georgia Farm Bureau Meeting and Convention. Another highlight of this year's event, the Celebrating Agricultural Literacy Program, sponsored by the GFB Women's Leadership Committee. During this time, all former state women's committee members were recognized, along with current committee members. In a heartfelt farewell, outgoing Women's Chair Melanie Sanders thanked Farm Bureau members for their love and support over the past year. She also introduced the incoming chairwoman, Rhonda Williams of Rabun County. Every year at convention, the Georgia Farm Bureau recognizes the teacher who takes it upon themselves to go the extra mile by incorporating agriculture and daily work into their lesson plans.
Yeah, Kenny, its official name, the Georgia Excellence in Teaching Ag Educator Award. This year's recipient is Marla Garto, a STEM resource and music teacher at Northside Elementary in Warner Robins, Georgia. Now, over the course of a year, Marla and her students work closely with Houston County Farm Bureau and Purdue Farms on a detailed and complicated project involving rehang efficiency. The students even met with Purdue officials to share their findings and offer up suggestions for better workflow, results that Purdue is now incorporating into its daily operation. Here now, the story of how this incredible adventure came to fruition.
Well, I think as a teacher, first of all, you have to think outside the box. It's constantly changing like any other career, whether it be in the medical field. Teaching constantly changes. So when our school kind of began our STEM process, we knew that we were going to have to start layering learning.
I know you talk about the music teacher being involved with that, but Marla, she just was able to connect everything. Kids love her. Again, she's one of our teacher leaders here at our school, and people look up to her, and I think that's one reason why I became STEM certified, is because of her energy.
We met our partners through Purdue through some professional learning. We felt like the best way we could become more knowledgeable about the area was to have professional learning opportunities. So we took a class that was actually sponsored by Farm Bureau, and it was at the Purdue Farm Plant. And we made some friends there very quickly that were very passionate and excited about the possibility of partnering with a STEM school.
They spent several hours out there, put their hands on the line, got to work a little bit, introduced them around, and they were just absolutely amazed. So in talking with several of the managers, picked out several problems and said, you know, let's start kind of easy. We don't want to dive down too deep until we can kind of see if this relationship is even going to work. This is something that we can do. So we started in what we call rehang. Well, there is an efficiency in place with all of that, and it takes lots of people, and you imagine standing on those lines for 8 hours a day. You get tired, and we run into the same problems. You can't keep people, nobody wants to work over there. How do we make all this work? So we thought that's going to be the first place. Let's just start there and see what we can do. And the teachers dived down into it, and then they started coming back, and they would ask questions. They would send a video back to the plant since they couldn't come. We've got questions. How do we do this? What does this look like?
The company and the representatives from the company were so accessible and helpful in explaining to our kids what the processes were and connecting it to their classroom standards and helping us create lessons in the classroom that were real-world, authentic situations and STEM problems that they had to think through and solve. We made thinkers out of real problems.
They had a ball with it. And then at the end, right after they got done with testing, they put a presentation together. They took their 6 top ideas, they dressed up, we brought our plant managers in here, and those guys actually presented, just like what we would do when we do a big continuous improvement process plan. And we have a presentation at the end that shows what worked, what didn't work, what do we think they can do to fix it. I mean, and these kids come up everything from extending their brakes, giving them more brakes, to they redesigned their gloves. I mean, they got down to they redesigned a shackle. And it was just the process and the motivation that these kids got out of it.
The first meeting we had a student say, I think this could be your problem. And the first meeting that we had with Purdue, I think that was the selling point right there, because it's amazing what those brains think. We're very cut and dry, and once we've done something one way, we do it the same way over and over and over and over. And we don't think along the lines of how can I do this quicker, more efficient. And these kids are shortcut kids. And so honestly, they're looking for shortcuts for everything. And so when you give them a problem, their brains think in 15 different directions that we never think.
First of all, you just think, you know, we're Title I, we're 100% free and reduced lunch. And it's just, you know, you get emotional about it, but you just think the passion that people like Marla have, that the teachers here at our school have, that, you know, no matter where kids come from, you know, the possibilities of what these kids can do will never be defined by a zip code, you know, but by the potential that they have. And again, it's that teacher that sparks that interest. And so we're just real proud of our kids, you know, we're proud of our teachers here. And it just makes you just feel really proud that, you know, it happens here at Northside Elementary School.
Yeah, just a great story, and Marla and her students definitely have a lot to be proud of. Now, meantime, in his first year as American Farm Bureau president, Zippy Duvall has traveled the country listening to the concerns of you, the farmer, trying to come up with the best solutions for each situation. Right now, we hear from Mr. Duvall on his role as American Farm Bureau president and what he hopes to accomplish in 2017.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to present to you the President of American Farm Bureau Federation for a 2-year term, Zippy Duvall.
No doubt one of the highlights of my career, being in that room that day when it was announced that you're American Farm Bureau President. Is the job everything you expected, or has it exceeded your expectations?
There's a lot more to this job than even I imagined it would be, and you know, it's just kind of hard to really try to figure out what goes into this job until you actually have to walk in the shoes of it. But the responsibilities that you carry of all the men and women across this country that do what I love to do, and trying to comprehend how Washington works and build those relationships that I talked so much about on the campaign trail, that takes time. And you know, I'm still working at trying to develop those relationships. Good enough when you call people up and call them by their first name, and be able to really sit down behind closed doors and accomplish things.
We're just a few weeks away from a new U.S. president taking office. As you know, like your job, that job is not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
Still, what does this new administration mean for agriculture as a whole?
Well, I think it means a lot. You know, we were very concerned about having the same type of policies that we've been experiencing for the recent years, and now that we have a change coming to Washington, and it's just a lot of excitement around change. I will admit, you know, how much the change, how the change will happen, and who it will affect. You know, there's still a lot of unknowns about that. But just with having change provides us with opportunities that we can do good things for agriculture.
2016 here in Georgia, very tough year. We had storms. We had low commodity prices. We had all kinds of things. What are some of the things and complaints that you're hearing from Georgia farmers?
Well, you know, the first thing you want to talk about is drought. Mm-hmm. And the area that my farm is in is historical drought in my area, and it's spread all over this state, some worse than others. So whether you're trying to harvest a crop that's short and with low commodity prices, or whether you're trying to take care of livestock and be in short of feed for the winter, the challenges that are in front of us for this next year, whether it's row crop or animal, is going to be very difficult in Georgia, and we understand that. But it's not isolated to Georgia. Mm-hmm. Across America, farmers are struggling. I get asked every day, are we in a crisis? Well, you know, if you know, I lived through the 80s, and the 80s was definitely a crisis in farmland. And, you know, I try to compare what I experienced then to what we experience now. And we do still have some real good advantages over what that period of time was. That period of time we had weak balance sheets, we had high interest rates, and now we have a little stronger balance sheets that are deteriorating fast, and we do still have low interest rates. Mm-hmm. So we still got some things going for us, but I will say, may not be in a crisis now, but we're definitely on a path to be in a crisis in American agriculture. So we're going to work hard for trade treaties. We're going to work hard to try to lessen the regulatory burdens, and we're going to work hard to try to find some consistency to the markets, and that comes in making sure that we can get our products out and sold and off the shelf. So, you know, there's a lot of complicated things that goes into it, but American Farm Bureau is there to do what they can do to make our farmers and ranchers' life better in Georgia and across America.
Always good to visit with President Duvall, and we will have more of that interview in the weeks to come, and we do look forward to seeing him again in just a few weeks at American Farm Bureau Convention in Phoenix.
Now time for our final break. When we come back, the $17 million vision of Governor Nathan Deal is now a reality. A look at the new and improved Jekyll 4-H Center, also known as Camp Jekyll. Stay tuned. Coverage of the 79th Annual GFB Meeting and Convention continues from Jekyll Island. A shot there of Driftwood Beach, one of the many popular destinations here on the island. Another popular destination, mainly for students across Georgia, recently underwent a major renovation. And as you're about to see, the change is definitely for the better. 2 years ago, Governor Nathan Deal toured the camp, formerly known as the Jekyll Island 4-H Youth and Learning Center. After seeing the old facility, he had a vision for something new, more modern.
Sandra and I just took a tour of the new facilities, and they are tremendous. If you haven't had that tour, I hope you will do so after this meeting here in just a few minutes.
Jones Hooks, executive director of the Jekyll Island Authority, said because of the governor's vision, the $17 million renovation will be part of the overall efforts to make Jekyll Island a well-rounded location to visit.
More than 65% of the island will remain natural and undeveloped. But at the same time, the developed areas by then will be flourishing and will be new. And that's something that this facility today brings forth so greatly and significantly is we've done away with a substandard facility, and instead we have a beautiful new facility that is going to be welcoming to students from all over the state.
The construction included 12 new buildings, 2 64-bed cabins, 4 32-bed cabins, 1 14-bed staff cabin, a 300-seat dining hall, and a 300-seat auditorium. The classrooms and labs at the camp will be named the Sandra Deal Learning Center in honor of Georgia's First Lady. The governor's wife had long advocated for education and making Camp Jekyll a safe place for students to visit.
Camp Jekyll is really an entire campus, all the way from lodging to food service in our dining hall to classes in the animal labs to the auditorium where the students will meet. But really, Camp Jekyll is really about the outside, about the island itself. Our boardwalk, 1,000 feet down to the beach, is really where we try to do most of our hands-on teaching and learning, having the students actually engage with the island and learning about the environment.
People have said over and over again that agriculture is the largest industry in this state, and a part of our responsibility and part of the thing that we work so hard in Extension is to make sure that the youth of today are agriculturally literate, that they'll be able to make good decisions tomorrow because they understand the impact of agriculture, even if that is not something that they've experienced firsthand. So we are very, very pleased, and we weave that ag literacy into everything we do in Georgia 4-H and Cooperative Extension, and this facility will just be a great place for us to continue doing that.
Now, finally today, safe to say frustration is very high right now among row crop growers.
Yeah, disappointment with commodity prices and anxiety over unfavorable growing conditions has many producers chomping at the bit for this year to just come to a close. But will 2017 be any better? Mark Wildman reports.
Many Georgia Farm Bureau members suffered through an extreme drought in 2016, and UGA forage specialist Dennis Hancock spoke to Georgia Farm Bureau members about how the dry weather affected livestock producers around the state.
2016, I think, is going to be a very memorable one for many producers. Many of them have been feeding hay since the middle of the summer, so they might have made the first cutting, but all of that has been fed up long since. We've had some real challenges also getting any winter grazing put into the ground as well. Just the last week or so have we actually been able to get into the fields. So we've got some real challenges going through the winter and feeding these animals and getting them through the winter.
Anytime livestock producers have to feed hay, their input costs go way up.
It's oftentimes costing them in excess of $1.50 to $2 per head per day to feed those animals through the winter. So it doesn't take much for that to really cut into the bottom line.
Even though the rains may arrive, Georgia pastures may take a while to recover.
We've done a lot of overgrazing this past fall that's really going to set our pastures back in the spring. My biggest concern at the moment is coming out of the spring, having enough of a root system and enough of a stand left to be able to have a really good strong pasture going into the spring and summer.
Along with dry conditions, Georgia row crop producers have been challenged by low commodity prices, and members got to hear about the outlook for next season.
In terms of pricing, we're looking at probably more of the same of 2016, which unfortunately does mean low prices, maybe a little bit of an uptick. We'll probably see less planting in terms of corn, although quite a bit more in soybean, where certainly prices are more favorable. It's just going to be a question of, I think, what happens in South America. We've got a lot of supply and a lot of carryover in terms of supply, and so the question is going to become whether or not there is enough demand to help alleviate some of that extra surplus.
Of course, nobody knows how 2017 will turn out, but farmers are eager to get back in the fields and get the new season underway. From Jekyll Island, I'm Mark Wildman for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
All right, Mark, thank you so much. Unfortunately, that does it from the 79th Annual GFB Meeting Convention here on Jekyll Island. Next week, we are back in our Macon studios and hope you make plans to join us then.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Georgia Farm Monitor. Have a great week.